everyone, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we are doing my April wrap-up. So April was an interesting time for reading. I feel like I did not do very well. Like, it has been my worst reading month so far. So we are gonna get into all the stats. I have the books here. But yeah, it was just something like with life and like motivation, and I really haven't been feeling like I've been able to actually like read physical books. I feel like the stats are definitely going to show that as well. But let's get into it. So according to my stats here, I have read 10 books in the month of April. I actually am in the middle of another one, so if you watched my TBR recently, I said I read 11 because I am counting that one as finished for April at least. I'm hoping to finish it very, very soon. But out of those 10 that we're going to talk about today, 2 of them are DNFs. That's the most DNFs I've had so far this year. I'm trying to be better about actually DNFing things, even if it's just because they're mediocre versus like because they're bad. But if we go to the page count, this is the lowest number of pages read for the month as well, which is 2,254. I will say my main sort of goal with pages is at least 2,000 every month. So like I'm still above my like minimum goal, but like I had like 4,000 pages in January, so just like that amount has definitely gone down a bit. But if we look at the audiobooks, like the amount of hours listened to in the month, I'm at 15.3, which is actually my highest. So like it's not that I'm necessarily not reading things. I'm still listening to audiobooks when I go take Presley to school and from school and things like that. Like I have the time for that. But trying to make time at home to actually sit and read, especially physical books, has been much harder. So the audiobooks is at the highest it's ever been, whereas everything else is at the lowest for this year. So let's go into those stats then. So for the reading method, like I said, the physical stuff has just not really been happening. So I am at 1 physical book for the month, 4 ebooks, and 5 audiobooks. The genre is still a little bit all over the place. I do have 3 fantasies, 2 horror, 2 nonfiction, 1 sci-fi, 1 romance, and 1 dystopian. For the book format, 6 of them were novels. 1 was a graphic novel, 1 was a manga, and then 2 were nonfiction. So I have them as other right now because in this sort of like book format section on the spreadsheet I use, which is a modified CAWPILE spreadsheet, it doesn't fit a novel because they're nonfiction. Some of the nonfiction that I've read earlier this year, I actually did have it fit a category because it was a graphic novel / comic, but these ones have just been more actual nonfiction, so I put other. As for indie versus traditional, 2 of them were indie published, 8 of them were traditionally published. How I got it, 4 of them are books that I owned previous to this year. 1 is a book I bought this year, 2 I borrowed from the library, 1 was an ARC, and then 2 were rereads. And then as for the age category, 6 of them were adult titles and 4 were young adult, which is still basically what my average has been. And then let's go into those star ratings. So I did have 2 DNFs, like I said before, 1 3-star, 4 4-stars, and 3 5-star reads. So ultimately not horrible, just not as much as I would have liked. So I think that now means we're gonna go into the actual books that I read in April. We will be starting with the DNFs and then moving up to my favorite book of the month. So the first book that I ended up DNFing was The Name Bearer by Natalia Hernandez. This was actually my Patreon book club pick for March that I started actually at the very end of March, and something about it was just not working for me. Part of it was that I was trying to read it physically and I started sort of slumping, I think partially because of this, but also partially because life got crazy, and like I said, physical books have just not been the way to read lately for me. So then I ended up checking it out from Kindle Unlimited because it is an indie book, it is on Kindle Unlimited, and I've tried multiple times to read this one. I had people from my Patreon book club end up DNFing this, end up finishing it, but really it was semi-mediocre for them. verging on not so great. And I think partially for me, it is the writing style. I got about 20-something% into this book and I really just did not find myself ever wanting to pick it up and continue. This might be something that is good for a lot of people, but like the writing was very overly descriptive. There was not very much dialogue, and I wasn't finding myself drawn to any characters, even our main character, and so it was just one of those things where like everything sort of compounded, and especially with the way I was feeling, I just was really struggling to push through with this. And yes, technically it was a Patreon book club pick for me, but I'm never going to force anybody, even myself, to finish those books. So yeah, this was a Rainbow Crate book, and I've realized semi-recently that I am very hit or miss with them. Some of them, really great. Others, I don't like. So I think this just falls on that side of the scale. My other DNF is The Thousandth Floor by Katharine McGee. This one is purely not my thing. I started listening to this on audiobook because, like I said, physical books have not been working for me very much lately. And I had this in my unhaul pile. My card from my TBR game was to pick an unhaul book. And book that I thought I was gonna unhaul. It's been there waiting for me to do like a try a chapter tag sort of thing for forever. And so this is the one that got picked. I got 11% into this one. I don't know. It was very much different than I was expecting, and I think part of it is just because I have American Royals by Katharine McGee, which I ended up giving 5 stars. It was another one that I was semi-thinking I was going to unhaul a few years ago, but when I read it, I loved it. And this one is more like very rich girls. Okay. I have never read or watched Gossip Girl, but that's what this gives me. This gives me like dystopian Gossip Girl, and I just found myself not caring about a single thing and realizing that like I didn't want to listen to like the 13 or 14 hour audiobook. Like I was just like, no, not my thing. So yeah, it is an unhaul. Okay, moving into my 3-star. This is a semi-low 3-star, but I didn't think it was quite a 2.5 because this is part of a series. This is So Long and Thanks for All the Fish by Douglas Adams. This is the 4th book in the series, and I liked the first book a lot. We've talked about this like almost every single month. I gave the first book 4 stars, and then ever since then, the rest of the books in the series have been verging on 2.5 or 3 stars for me, just depending on the stuff that's going on. I liked this one slightly better than like Restaurant at the End of the Universe, but slightly less than the one that was right before this one, which was like Life, the Universe, and Everything. Part of it is just like, again, completely different than every other book in the series. Nothing really fully connects everything. I thought we were gonna get connected at the very beginning because this one takes us back a little bit to the roots of the first book in the series, but at the same time, it introduced new characters and didn't have old characters show up like hardly at all. It's just very different. I also didn't like how this sort of verged on like our main character of Arthur being interested in a woman purely because he thought she was pretty, like never knew anything else about her. Like there was no reasoning for a lot of it. He was almost semi-stalking her. And it was just like one of those things where I didn't think that some of that more sexual nature, even though it's not like 100% like sex on page sort of thing, it didn't need to be included. Like there was just things that turned me off from this, and I wished we got back to like some of the characters that we knew previously and like that these books connected more. It's not necessarily a bad thing. There were certain things I did like, but yeah, I feel like this series for me in general, besides the first book that I did pretty much like, is just sort of mediocre. Then I'm going to be moving into my 4 stars. So the first 4 stars I have here is Late Bloomer by Maisie Eddings. This was an arc that I read, and I absolutely loved The Plus One by Maisie Eddings. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, one of my top books of the year, and I think this one let me down a little bit from that because it wasn't as much focused on the romance for me. We have 2 characters. This is a sapphic romance story, but they seem to be a little bit more like, let's try a sexual relationship without the romance first, and the way that that sort of happened led to not feeling like there was enough romantic buildup, and I would prefer that over the more lusty sexual feelings. I did really appreciate that this is a book by an actually autistic author, and I have a vlog coming out soon for the Autism Acceptance Readathon that happened all through April. So I do talk about this book more in depth there, coming out very, very soon. But I was just really hoping for more of the romance, whereas like the actual autism rep and stuff on page, because this is an actually autistic author, I really did like that. So like there were things that I really did appreciate about this book, but at the same time, for an actual just like adult romance sort of thing, I was hoping for more romance. My next 4 stars is Gmorning, Gnight by Lin-Manuel Miranda. This is one of the non-fiction, I guess we could say it's like more of like a self-help sort of situation. I did listen to this on audio, so it was a very, very quick read. I do know that there's some illustrations and things in the original book, so while this book says it's like 200 pages, if you're listening on audiobook, it's really not. I absolutely loved the introduction and like why Lin-Manuel Miranda decided to like create this book. Like I thought the purpose of this book was very helpful. It was more like, I think he said stuff that he wished people said to him, or stuff that he wanted to tell himself when he wakes up in the morning or when he goes to bed at night. This does have like a good morning, good night section every single time. So it's like good morning something, good night something, and they usually seem to match pretty well. So I did feel like a little bit of it was a little bit repetitive as you continue, but there were some really, really good points to it. Like some stuff was a little bit cheesy, but some stuff was really heartwarming and like it hit you there. So 4 stars overall. I did enjoy this one, just potentially not like something that I normally would have picked up for myself, especially since this was technically for like the magical readathon that I did not actually finish this month, but like it was a choice for that one. Then another 4 stars is Nailbiter Volume 3, Blood in the Water by Joshua Williamson. I gave this a 4 star. I think, have I given that every Nailbiter one a 4 star right now? I think I have. This is the 3rd volume of comics, so they're collected about this town where serial killers are basically born. And so it's called Nailbiter because one of the like more recent serial killers from this place is the Nailbiter. He like bites nails, but there's obviously something else going on. My thing with this volume, and I think part of the reason it's a 4 star, is like we just get so many more questions each time we get to the next volume. Like I really am enjoying this. It's very dark, very creepy. The art style really fits the atmosphere. It is bloody and gory and stuff like that. But I'm at that point where I'm like, I want more answers, and really we're at more mystery evolving throughout. Not very many answers, but I'm still really enjoying the ride. So like 4 stars. Then my next 4 star was a reread, which is The Dream Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater. I actually also reread The Raven Boys. I give this a 5 stars. This is a reread for me because I'm trying to eventually get to The Raven King, which is the last book in the series that I have never read. And so I decided to reread these on audio. The audio started off a little bit jarring because I wasn't like sure what we were getting into. Some narrators I love, some I'm a little unsure of, but like ultimately it's really good. They do a very good job with the different like accents and things like that. And so yeah, Raven Boys, I guess we'll just talk about both at the same time. I gave The Raven Boys 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely love the opening and like finding out about Blue and the women that she lives with, and the fact that like if she kisses her true love, he's going to die, and all this kind of stuff. And we really get into this like mystery of like what are the boys looking for in Glendower, and I love the like creation of the friend group. And then we get into The Dream Thieves, and this is definitely more Ronan's book, whereas like he's not really a main character in this one. And I think not because of Ronan specifically, but because of some of the stuff that happens in this book where we have Kavinsky and stuff like that, you can really see Maggie Stiefvater's love for cars and like that kind of stuff, because if you follow her on like Instagram or anything, which I do, you get to see that a lot. And I think because of that, those kind of choices are not my favorite. I do love the opening up of some of the lore through this world, but like we're sort of removed from the like let's find Glendower sort of situation in book 1. And it's like we almost have like a side quest in book 2 to find out more about Ronan and his family and like that kind of stuff. And while it is very interesting, the departure from this one to some of the stuff in this I don't like as much. So this one is a 4 for me, this one's a 5. I'm hoping to read more. I need to reread Blue, Lily, Lily, Blue, and then finish The Raven King. I'm hoping this month in May. But yeah, so 4 and 5 stars. And actually that continues into the rest of the 5 stars that we have here. The next one is Can't Stop Cursing You, Volume 4, which is the final volume of this series by Kensuke Koba. This is the final volume. I will say, I still gave this a 5 star. The actual like one major case they have going on in here was great. I really, really loved it. So this is a series about curse killings, and we follow this like one character who is a curse breaker, and he is not exactly police, but he goes out and is like trying to figure out who is contracted with a curse god to then do these like paranormal curse killings. And each book that we have has a different like major crime sort of thing that they're trying to solve. I really did like this one. It deals with pop idols and stuff too, and like the way that they set up everything I thought was really, really good. And then we get to like the end of the story, and it sort of like rushes through the epilogue almost. Like it has the whole completion of the actual events of this like crime that they're trying to figure out storyline, which I loved. And then it has multiple pages that are like opening up like after the events of this is sort of what the world is. And I'm just like, this is the final book in this series, the final volume. Is this trying to tell me that there's going to be a spin-off series? Because if it is, I'm all for it. But if not, I'm confused on why it ended the way it ended. I'm not gonna like say what it was, but like just the ending sort of gave us more than I think we needed if this was really for sure gonna be a final volume in a series. You know what I mean? Like if this was the final volume, everything that they included after the solving of the case feels like it just opens it up a little bit too much. Like yes, maybe they are gonna have extra stuff, who knows? But because of that, like it is a 5, but it's not like my favorite book of the month, because like I loved it up until that very end, where now I'm just a little bit confused. Finally, I guess my favorite book of the month. I don't think I was ever planning on saying this was my favorite book of the month, but like when you really go through everything, I think it actually is. It is What I Mean When I Say I'm Autistic by Annie Kotowitz. This is a nonfiction memoir sort of thing that I read for the Autism Acceptance Readathon, and it was really, really good. It's not too long, a couple hundred pages, and it's basically Annie, who I think is also like the author of Neuro Beautiful, which is like an online thing that I didn't know about before this book. It is indie published by her. It's published by Neuro Beautiful, and it's her like talking about her experiences being a late diagnosed woman with autism. And it is very much like, these are her personal experiences. Not everybody that's autistic is going to experience this, but she has it broken down in such a way that yes, they're personal experiences, they're little stories, but it also explains what certain things mean when she says she's autistic. So like what stimming means, and then what stimming means for her, what masking means, what masking means for her. I really liked the way that it was set up. It was very easy to read, and for somebody who is pretty sure that I am autistic and would technically be late diagnosed as a female being autistic, I related to quite a bit of what she said in there. Obviously not everything, because again, everybody that is autistic is going to have things present in different ways, but there was a lot of stuff that I related to quite a bit, and I just really loved the way that she explained things for her and how she figured things out and what things meant, even on the back end of like realizing later that she was autistic, and then what that could mean for like when she was a child and stuff like that. So I really, really like this one. Again, I'll talk about it a little bit more in the actual Autism Acceptance Readathon vlog. That should be coming out soon. But yeah, a nonfiction book for my favorite book of the month. I was not expecting that. So that is everything for today. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more videos. I do have videos coming out Tuesdays, Thursdays, and sometimes Saturdays. So I will see you then. Bye.